Hello everybody and welcome to this week's protection update. So we've been talking about trusts recently, specifically trusts in relation to life assurance policies, and it was really good to see so many of you on the recent Trust Made Simple workshops last week on Monday and on Wednesday. Writing more life policies into trust is a nut that we need to crack in this industry, but I think the providers also need to play their part to simplify some of their processes, and it is good to see innovations such as beneficiary nomination, online trusts with no signatures, that kind of thing. And obviously some providers have had these for quite a while. So last week you should have seen the first of 7 podcasts that we'll release over the next 7 weeks. The objective: I've got a client with a single life policy for a mortgage protection plan. He has a partner but they aren't married. I need to write this policy into trust to make sure that the unmarried partner gets the funds from the policy so that she can repay the mortgage if he dies during the mortgage term. That is a very simple protection objective, but the challenge you face as the advisor is that life assurance policy could be with any of the various life offices. Last week we looked at the process with Aviva on the Protection Insight podcast. This week we're going to look at the exact same client but through the Aegon process. Now, I'm not going to spoil that podcast. It is attached to this week's protection update, but if you watch it, there is something quite unique that Aegon do that I don't think any other life office that I'm aware of do on their discretionary trust forms. So take a look at the podcast and see if you can spot it. Now, on the Trust Made Simple workshops, one of the concepts we talked about was how to translate the objective of what a protection policy needs to do in terms the client can properly understand and appreciate. Now, one way is a concept called protection trust fund. We've all heard about trust funds and we associate them with money. So how does that work in the context of protection policies and trusts? Well, the first thing we need is a client, and this client needs to take out or already have a life assurance policy. The thing with life assurance though, there's no value, not until the life assured dies and a claim is made. So what that means is life assurance is always for someone else's benefit. So the first consideration is to ask, who should that person or persons be? And once we know that, we need to make sure that we've got a process in place to ensure that that person or those people receive the protection trust fund. Now, we do this by writing the life policy into a trust. So think of the trust like a treasure chest. The life assurance is the promise of a large lump sum of money in the event of a claim. So the treasure chest is what holds that life assurance policy and then the money if and when the time comes. When the client or the settler dies, we need people who can open up the treasure chest and act on behalf of the settler. Obviously, the settler would do this themselves, but as they've died, they need someone to do it for them. But not just anyone. These need to be people the settler trusts, and that's why we call these people trustees. When we write a life policy into trust, we're actually changing the ownership of the policy to the trustees, and that's why we can say that these trustees each have a key to this treasure chest and they are in charge of the proceeds of the claim. So in the event of a claim, they now need to open up the treasure chest with their key and they need to do something with what's inside the trust fund, the money. What do? Well, another component to this project is the instructions, or as we would call them, the letter of wishes. That letter of wishes explains what they need to do. And what does that look like? They make a payment to the people for whom the proceeds are intended, and we call those people the beneficiaries. And this detail can all be contained within that letter of wishes instruction. So you've picked people that you trust to act on your behalf. You tell them what you want them to do, and you do that in writing. And that's how to achieve the best possible outcome. What I've described there is quite a simple concept to understand, and your clients need a proper advisor like you to set that up. So on Wednesday, the 25th of August, we've got our final Trust Made Simple workshop. One of the core objectives behind these workshops is to give you better confidence to engage in conversations and the process for writing protection policies into trust. Now, to measure this, at the beginning and the end of each workshop, we run an interactive poll where every advisor indicates their personal level of confidence with regard to talking to clients about trusts, explaining the purpose and the benefits, why is it important and what's in it for the client, and finding and completing the trust process for the providers that you tend to use. When we measure this confidence check, the results were an average score of 3.2 out of 10 at the start of those workshops, based on every advisor who attended. But if you look at the score at the end of those workshops, the score jumped up to an average of 6.9 out of 10 at the end of those workshops. So we make no apologies about deliberately keeping things simple and straightforward on these workshops, because that's the way to develop confidence around a subject which, to be fair, has hundreds of years of legacy, and it can be complicated. I've added the registration link to this protection update, so just press the button, do the registration, and I'll see you on the 25th. In terms of industry news, looks like a bit of a light week, so there isn't anything major to report. So with that, don't forget to check out the Aegon Trust podcast on this protection update. Have a great weekend, hopefully some good weather, and I'll speak to you soon.